My brother's girlfriend kept accidentally ruining my job interviews. Then I discovered she was secretly applying for the same roles. She denied it for months, until I showed the recruiter's email, during her birthday dinner. At first, it was easy to write off as bad luck. A missed alarm the morning of a virtual panel interview. A mysterious coffee spill on my only pressed blouse, the one I had carefully laid out the night before. My resume printing with bizarre formatting glitches, even though I'd triple-checked it. Just bad timing, I thought. Maybe nerves. I told myself the universe was testing my patience or sense of humor. But then it kept happening. Not every time, but enough to start feeling like a pattern. Every time I was close, a second interview, a callback, a role I was genuinely excited about, something went wrong. Not big disasters. Just small, strange derailments that left me scrambling and embarrassed. And over time, I started to notice something else. Emily, my brother's girlfriend, was always nearby when it happened. Emily had moved into our house 3 months earlier, supposedly for a week or two while she figured things out after a blow-up with her old roommate. At first, I tried to be welcoming. She was always sweet in that surface-level kind of way, sugary smiles, endless small talk, constantly offering to make coffee or chat about career stuff. She called me babe in a tone that always sounded slightly mocking, like everything she said had air quotes around it. But I didn't have the energy to read into it. I was job hunting full-time after graduating with honors and juggling 2 part-time gigs just to pay rent. I was focused. Still, she had this odd habit of hanging around whenever I was prepping for interviews. She'd ask questions like, "So what kind of role is it again?" Or "Who's the recruiter? Do you have to do one of those boring Zoom things?" She played it off like curiosity, like she was rooting for me, but the questions were always specific. Too specific. At one point, she even asked to see how I formatted my resume because she was thinking of applying for admin roles someday. I showed her. Because why wouldn't I? The first time I truly felt that punch-in-the-gut suspicion was after a final round interview with a major tech firm I had spent weeks preparing for. It went terribly. I was off my game, anxious, and flustered from a last-minute wardrobe disaster. I came home feeling like I'd blown the biggest opportunity I'd had in months. And there she was, sitting on the couch, wearing my blazer. My blazer. The same one I had steamed and set aside the night before for that interview. She wore it like it was hers, curled up with a mug of tea and her phone in her lap, completely at ease. When I stared at her, she blinked and said with a soft smile, "Oh, that? I thought it was just hanging there. You weren't using it, right?" I laughed. A tight, awkward laugh. What else could I do? Start a fight over a blazer? But something inside me curled up. Not just discomfort, something deeper. That quiet, sinking feeling in your gut when your instincts whisper, "This isn't random. This isn't harmless." Something was off. And it was time to start paying attention. After the blazer incident, I started noticing things differently, not with panic, but with precision. Like a part of me had finally woken up. I didn't jump to conclusions right away. I just started tracking. Quietly. Silently. Not just what Emily said, but when she said it. How she asked. Where my things were in the morning versus the night before. I stopped assuming anything was a coincidence. And that's when the pattern became too clear to ignore. One morning, I walked into the kitchen and found Emily sipping her almond milk latte, scrolling through job listings on her phone. I hadn't even known she was looking for a job. She'd always played it cool, acting like she was taking time to figure things out. But that day, she looked up at me and said, "Hey, didn't you apply to a place called Finch Analytics? Is that, like, still open?" I saw it listed. I froze mid-step. Because yes, I had applied there. 3 days earlier. It was a role I was excited about, at a company I genuinely admired, and I had only mentioned it in passing. To her. Once. While making tea. My first instinct was to downplay. "Oh, yeah," I said casually. "Just sent in a resume. We'll see." She tilted her head like she was trying to look supportive. Cool. I might apply too. Maybe we'll be coworkers. She laughed, like it was a joke. But something about her tone, like she already knew something I didn't, stuck to me like gum on the bottom of my shoe. 2 days later, I got an automated rejection email from Finch. No interview. No explanation. Just a vague, "We've decided to move forward with other candidates." That alone wasn't unusual. Job hunting is brutal, and rejection is part of the deal. But the timing? The silence after initial interest? And Emily, suddenly printing out resumes that looked suspiciously familiar? I couldn't shake it. So I started locking things down. Changed all my passwords. Saved my documents under random file names. Stopped leaving my interview prep notes on the desk. I even stopped talking out loud about upcoming applications. It felt paranoid, and I hated that. I hated feeling like I couldn't trust someone in my own home. But I was right to be cautious. One afternoon, while Emily was in the shower, I passed by her laptop in the living room. She had left it open, classic Emily, always careless when she thought the world revolved around her. I know it wasn't right, but I couldn't help myself. Just one peek. Just one folder. Her desktop was cluttered with documents, but one folder stood out, apps_2024. Inside were a dozen cover letters and resumes. Most of them were generic. But three of them were identical to jobs I had applied to. Same companies. Same job titles. And worse? Her cover letters were almost word-for-word copies of mine, the same phrasing, the same bullet points I had agonized over, the same strategic anecdotes about teamwork, remote communication, data analysis. I felt sick. There's a kind of betrayal that doesn't come with screaming or slamming doors. It's quieter. Colder. The kind that walks into your life smiling, asks how your interview went, and then uses your exact words to try and take your spot. I stepped away from the laptop, heart pounding. My ears were ringing. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't exactly call her out without admitting I'd snooped. And even then, she'd twist it. Make it seem like I was insecure, imagining things. She was good at that, always laughing things off, always towing the line between friendly and manipulative. So I waited. I watched. And I decided to test her. The next day, I casually mentioned over dinner that I had an upcoming final round interview with a niche startup, a company I made up. I told her the name, the role, even dropped a fake recruiter name. Just to see what would happen. 2 days later, I got a message from my friend Anna, who works in HR at a completely unrelated firm, and had agreed to play along with my experiment. She sent me a screenshot. Emily had emailed my recruiter. Asked about openings. Claimed to have seen a job posting. Attached her resume, with my formatting. My language. That was the moment I stopped wondering. I knew. Emily wasn't just copying me. She was competing with me. Secretly. Aggressively. And possibly sabotaging me along the way. And now I had the proof. Knowing the truth and acting on it are two very different things. And once I had confirmation, undeniable, screenshotted, time-stamped proof, something in me shifted. I didn't feel angry, exactly. Not yet. What I felt was focused. Like everything had suddenly snapped into high definition, and I could see the entire situation for what it really was. Emily wasn't just petty. She was strategic. She wasn't impulsively copying me. She was studying me, my strengths, my process, even the language I used when I talked about myself, and using it like ammunition to step into roles meant for me. And the most twisted part? She was doing it all while sitting across from me at dinner, complimenting my nail polish and asking how I slept. I didn't confront her right away. Not because I was afraid, I wasn't. But because I knew she'd deny it. Lie through her teeth with a smile and a blink and a "You're overthinking this, babe." She was good at turning things around, gaslighting in subtle ways that left you doubting your own memory. I'd watched her do it to my brother in small doses, twist his words, rewrite timelines, weaponize her own innocence. If I wanted this to end on my terms, I needed to be smart. So I waited. I became quiet, watchful. I stopped giving her anything useful. No job updates. No recruiter names. I played dumb, let her think she was still ahead. Meanwhile, I was gathering every scrap of evidence I had, screenshots, email timestamps, overlapping application dates, formatting comparisons. I even reprinted 2 of our cover letters side by side, highlighting the identical phrases she had lifted straight from mine. It was like watching someone plagiarize a diary. The longer I waited, the more emboldened she became. One afternoon, I overheard her on the phone bragging to someone, probably a friend, about how she had a good feeling about that marketing role. I almost laughed. That role was mine. My interview. My prep. My late-night research. And now it was in her hands, because she had taken the blueprint and forged her own fake version of me. That night, I sat on my bed with the printed emails in my lap, Cooper, my dog, my one source of sanity through all this, curled up at my feet. My brother was in the next room, still completely in the dark. He adored Emily. Thought she was quirky and ambitious and misunderstood. He had no idea she'd spent the last month trying to replace his sister's opportunities with her own carefully stolen versions. For a moment, I considered telling him everything right there. But something in my gut said, not yet. I didn't want to just say what she did. I wanted to show it. I wanted her to see what it feels like when your words come back to you, not stolen, but as a mirror. A reflection of everything she thought she could get away with. And I wanted others to see it too. People who thought she was sweet. Innocent. Charming. And then, fate handed me the opportunity, her birthday dinner. My brother planned it weeks in advance, a restaurant she loved, family and friends invited, one of those curated nights where everything is picture-perfect and performative. Emily was glowing, of course. Giddy. She loved attention like plants love sunlight. She floated through the house in the days leading up to it, talking about what to wear, how she wanted something memorable. She was going to get exactly that. In the meantime, I kept playing my part. I helped pick a card. Signed it with a little heart. Said, can't wait for the big night. With just the right amount of sugar in my voice. All the while, I had a folder sitting in my desk drawer, carefully compiled, neatly labeled, and ready for its moment. I wasn't just planning a confrontation. I was staging a reveal. And the best part? She never saw it coming. The night of Emily's birthday dinner felt like something out of a movie, one of those perfectly polished scenes where everyone's dressed too nicely, the lighting is soft and golden, and there's just enough background jazz to make you forget anything ugly could be lurking beneath the surface. The restaurant she chose was downtown, upscale, the kind of place with no prices on the menu and cocktails that come with their own origin stories. She wore a sleek, champagne-colored dress and heels that clicked like punctuation marks across the floor. She looked radiant, the kind of radiant that only comes from believing you've gotten away with something. My brother was beaming. He had booked the private room. Ordered a cake. Made a little speech about how lucky he was to have her in his life. Everyone clapped. Someone teared up. Emily acted surprised, touched, humbled, like she hadn't spent the last few weeks systematically torpedoing my future behind that glittery smile. I sat at the end of the table, quiet but alert, nursing a glass of water I hadn't touched. My fingers brushed the envelope inside my purse. The folder. The printouts. The evidence. I had rehearsed what I'd say 100 times in my head, rewriting the words until they were sharp but clean, no yelling, no accusations, just the truth laid bare like an X-ray. But even then, part of me hesitated. Not because I doubted what she did, no. But because I knew that once I opened my mouth, things wouldn't go back to the way they were. My relationship with my brother would crack. The illusion Emily had built would collapse. And I would stop being the nice sister. I would become the one who ruined Emily's birthday. But then I looked at her. Laughing. smirking, tossing her hair like a villain in a rom-com, and I thought, she's already ruined so much of mine. And so I stood up. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't clink a glass. I just pushed back my chair slowly and said, I brought a birthday gift too. The room quieted immediately. People turned toward me, confused, curious. Emily's expression shifted. Her smile froze just a little too tightly. Oh, she said, tilting her head. What is it? I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope. Thick. Weighted. Months of quiet observation tucked into a simple manila fold. I placed it gently on the table in front of her. It's your cover letter, I said. Actually, several of them. She blinked. Laughed. That high-pitched, performative laugh she used when she didn't yet know which emotion to fake. Wait, what? These are applications you submitted to companies I applied to first. Same roles. Same recruiters. Same wording. Sometimes the exact same phrases from my own resume and cover letters. I know this because I found your files. And because I baited you. The room fell into silence. Remember that fake company I told you about? The one I said I had an interview with? Yeah. They never posted a listing. I made it up. And 2 days later, you emailed my contact asking for the same role. Now her smile was gone. The color drained slowly from her face like someone had pulled a plug. I've been watching you, I continued, my voice steady. Watching the way you ask questions about my interviews. The way you wear my clothes. The way you miraculously discover job openings hours after I mention them. I didn't want to believe it at first. I tried to give you the benefit of the doubt. But you've made it impossible. My brother looked between us, stunned. Wait, what is this? Is this a joke? I turned to him, gently. It's not. I'm sorry to do this here. But you needed to see it, everyone needed to see it. Because she's not just competing with me. She's been stealing from me. Copying me. And possibly sabotaging me. Emily finally spoke. Her voice was tight, defensive, brittle. This is insane. You're obsessed. We're all applying to the same places. That's just how the market is right now. I pulled out 2 pages. Laid them side by side on the table. Really? Then explain why your cover letter for Finch Analytics uses my story about coordinating volunteer teams during college, a story I've never told anyone outside this house. Explain why your resume includes the exact same phrasing I used for my project lead bullet points, the ones I created for that nonprofit role you never worked on. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Looked at my brother, desperate. She's twisting everything. I turned to him again. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to embarrass her. But this is my livelihood. My career. And she treated it like a shortcut. Like I was just some job board she could mine. For a long moment, no one said a word. The weight of it sank in, the manipulation, the calculation, the months of deceit hiding beneath perfect eyebrows and brunch selfies. Finally, my brother pushed his chair back. Slowly. Like his legs barely worked. I need to go outside, he muttered. Emily called after him, but he didn't stop. I sat down. No one applauded. There were no cheers. Just a quiet, awkward clinking of silverware and shifting chairs, like everyone was slowly realizing the party had ended, just not in the way they expected. Emily didn't leave immediately. She stayed a few minutes, red-faced, eyes darting, trying to salvage whatever dignity she had left. But it was gone. Everyone saw her now. Really saw her. And that was all I needed. The days after the dinner were strange. Not dramatic. Not explosive. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that lingers in a house after something big and irreversible has happened, the kind you can feel in your chest. Emily didn't come home that night. She didn't come home the next day either. I heard from a mutual friend that she was staying with someone downtown, trying to process the betrayal. That's what she called it, betrayal. Like I had wronged her. Like she hadn't spent months picking apart my life and stitching the best pieces of it into a costume she wore to walk into interviews meant for me. My brother didn't say much. Not at first. The night of the dinner, he didn't text. Didn't call. He just disappeared into silence, and honestly, I needed that too. I needed time to breathe without waiting for the next blow. But 3 days later, he knocked on my bedroom door. Quiet. Soft. Like he wasn't sure if he still had the right. "I'm sorry," he said. That was it. No long speech. No defense. Just those 2 words, heavy with realization. I asked him, "Did you really not know?" He shook his head slowly. "I saw signs, but I thought I was just being paranoid. I didn't think she'd actually do that to you." I nodded. I didn't need more. The silence had said enough. Emily moved out the following week. No goodbye. No apology. Just a few boxes, a tense exchange of keys, and the sound of her car disappearing down the street. She left behind one of my blouses, the same one she borrowed during one of my interviews. I didn't keep it. I donated it. I'd like to say everything turned around overnight. That companies called me back in droves. That I got hired immediately. That life rewarded me for standing up for myself. But it wasn't like that. The job market was still brutal. The rejections still came. But at least now I knew that when I failed, it wasn't because someone inside my own house had set traps. Eventually, things did shift. A month later, I got an offer from a mid-size agency I had admired for years. One of the few interviews that Emily hadn't gotten her hands on. It wasn't just a job. It was a full-circle moment. I had made it on my own, without betrayal breathing down my neck. And when the offer came in, I sat on my bed, Cooper curled beside me, and I cried, not out of sadness, but from release. From finally being able to believe that my life, my future, was mine again. And that feeling? That quiet knowing? It was worth more than any dramatic clapback or public takedown. People still ask me if I regret the way I exposed her. If I should have waited, or done it privately, or chosen a kinder moment. But let me tell you something, people like Emily don't stop until someone makes them visible. Until someone takes the spotlight they thrive under and turns it into a mirror. She spent months wearing pieces of me, my words, my work, my ambition, like they were accessories. Unfiltered and unapologetic? She had nothing left to hide behind. This wasn't about revenge. It was about reclamation. And I reclaimed everything she thought I wouldn't notice until it was too late. So no, I don't regret it. I'd do it all over again. Only this time? I'd bring my own cake to the party.